Multiple severe weather outbreaks are coming, and this could be the most dangerous severe weather pattern that we have had since April. Everything kicks off today with a significant wind and tornado threat in the northern plains in Canada. But the real concern is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, where we are forecasting widespread significant severe weather in the northern plains, Midwest, and Ohio Valley, with damaging winds, very large hail, and significant tornadoes being possible. I am growing very concerned about the weather that's coming this week, so let's get right into the forecast. And we do have a lot to talk about in today's forecast, and I want to jump right into the severe weather potential for the next few days. And we'll begin with what is happening today, which is Sunday, and we have three different risks of severe weather for today. The greatest one will be across the northern plains, where we do have a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk stretching from Wyoming back into North Dakota, including Bismarck. There is also a large marginal threat of severe weather encompassing right around 5 to 10 million people near Tulsa, Fort Smith, Springfield, Missouri, just south of St. Louis, near Kansas City, and another marginal threat for Richmond, Virginia, where the main concern for today will be damaging wind gusts across the far northern plains and into Manitoba and Saskatchewan. We are expecting significant damaging winds between 70 to 90 miles per hour at times. So we are talking about a major damaging wind threat later today. In the far northern plains, there is a risk of hail to the size of tennis balls, maybe baseballs. And then the tornado threat for today is going to be low, but it's not zero. We actually had a few tornadoes yesterday in far western Arkansas, and there was no risk of severe weather outlined. I want to point out that today has the potential to be a little bit more elevated than what we saw yesterday. So a few tornadoes will be possible, especially in Oklahoma and Arkansas, maybe even one or two back over in southwest Missouri and extreme southeastern Kansas. And then back over in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, I think this is where we could have the risk of large and even strong tornadoes this afternoon. And so watch out if you're in Canada. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But in the United States, there's just a low end 2% tornado risk in place for right now north of Rapid City. The environment is really favorable over in Canada, though. We're lucky that the United States is not dealing with that threat. As we go into tomorrow, the threat of severe weather is a little bit lower, but this is really going to be the lowest day of severe weather out of the next 5 or 6 days. In fact, after this, we have enhanced risks lined up for Tuesday, Wednesday, and beyond, I think. So at least for right now on Monday, we do only have a slight risk of severe weather northeast of Denver, Colorado, and then 3 different marginal threats, one in the far northern plains, one encompassing the central plains, and then another right in the mid-Mississippi River Valley, where we're mainly going to be watching for a threat of damaging winds and also some large to perhaps very large hail. I do think there will be a low tornado risk kind of setting up in this general area in Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado, but for right now, the Storm Prediction Center only has a tornado threat northeast of Denver, but as I just mentioned, I do think this will probably grow in size by the next outlook. And then as we go into Tuesday, we have yet again another enhanced risk of severe weather. I do think Tuesday has the potential to produce strong and large tornadoes, but at the bare minimum, we are talking about a very large hail and damaging wind threat that is going to set up across parts of North Dakota and extreme northern South Dakota. If you live in Minneapolis, as far south as Kansas City, we also need to be on alert for an increasing risk of severe weather. Late Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday evening. And then as we head into Wednesday, we are talking about a potential for a severe weather outbreak across the Midwest. Wouldn't even rule out the potential for a tornado outbreak. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center now has a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of severe weather in place. This includes a lot of people. We're talking Minneapolis, Rochester, Owatonna, and even Wausau, Wisconsin, and then a large slight risk of severe weather for all of Minnesota, going into northern Missouri, almost all of Iowa, northwest Illinois, and much of Wisconsin. I know Milwaukee, Rockford, and Chicago, you guys are kind of left outside of this right now. I do think this slight risk will probably expand eastward in future outlooks, but nonetheless, I do think Wednesday is going to hold a lot of severe weather. We're talking about the risk of widespread damaging winds, very large hail, and the threat of a few strong tornadoes. So Wednesday is a day that we need to be staying really alert for because the ceiling is high with Wednesday. Granted, we could see a bust. I mean, any day could bust out of the year, but this is a day that does have a high ceiling. The environment is very ripe. You need to be staying weather aware and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It is going to be a very busy Wednesday, and I do expect we'll be live. Thursday, we have another risk of severe weather, including a lot of people. We got Chicago, Milwaukee, back into Lansing, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, St. Louis, just north of Jefferson City near Columbus, all in a level 2 out of 5 slight risk of severe weather, where very large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes will once again be possible during this very active stretch of severe weather. Now let's go day by day with the timing of severe weather, and we'll begin with what is happening today. We have a very interesting severe weather setup in 2 different areas, the first of which is across the Central Plains. Today we actually have a very strong southwesterly flow in the low levels. You actually don't see this very often, for there only being a 2% tornado risk, but the upper levels very weak. This is not the most favorable environment for significant severe weather, but there will be enough wind shear for a few tornadoes to happen, I think, around Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas. And so this will really peak, I think, between about 2 o'clock all the way through about 8 o'clock tonight, as storms will be trying to organize. The big problem with today's setup is that there's just going to be a little bit too much convection during the morning. It's going to be fairly disorganized, but notice as we go into the afternoon hours, there will be scattered showers and thunderstorms all across Arkansas and Missouri. By 3 o'clock, we could have storms knocking on the doorstep of Springfield, could be rotating, damaging winds and a low tornado risk. Same thing near Little Rock and even near the Fort Smith area, which is where we had 3 different tornadoes yesterday. And by about 5 to 6 o'clock, we do expect this tornado threat to continue. It should remain pretty isolated. It will be on and off. I don't think there's going to be a concentrated 1 hour window where we see 5 tornadoes and then there's, you know, the rest the time period where there's like 1. This isn't that kind of event. I think it's gonna be pretty spaced out, so we could have tornadoes really at any point during the daytime hours, but mainly between 2 and 8 o'clock tonight. And then by 9 to 10 o'clock, most of the storms will begin to weaken as daylight heating comes to an end. And the other really interesting threat of severe weather today will be in the far northern plains and Canada. Yes, you heard that right. Saskatchewan and Manitoba are looking at the potential for the risk of strong and large tornadoes later this afternoon and evening. One of the reasons why is because our significant tornado parameter values will be as high as 10 over there near Brandon and Manitoba. So if we do end up seeing discrete supercells, which we think 1 or 2 will be out there, I do think there is a risk of a large tornado this afternoon across parts of Manitoba. So definitely make sure you're staying alert here if you're between Regina and back over near Winnipeg, as it is looking like a very active day. But look at North Dakota. There really is not a whole lot of wind shear here. We're not going to really have that favorable an environment for significant tornadoes. Instead, what's going to happen is by 5 to 6 o'clock, we'll have a line of thunderstorms developing in Montana and Wyoming. While that's happening, we'll start to see discrete supercells go up here in both southeastern Saskatchewan and western Manitoba, producing the risk of very large hail, damaging winds, and even a risk of a couple of strong tornadoes. So I think any strong tornado threat today will be primarily over in Canada.